2017, the year that gamers finally challenged microtransactions and actually beat them in some cases, like in the case of EA, and the year where Nintendo proved everybody wrong and showed, hey, maybe there's different ways to make a console work. And now that we're approaching the ending of 2017 and the beginning of a brand new year in 2018, I decided to revisit one of the videos I made this year and try to predict the Nintendo Switch 2018 lineup, but not just the 2018 lineup. I'm also predicting when Nintendo is going to do their traditional, not just traditional, but their Nintendo Directs for and during 2018. So I'm the Legend of DS, and let's get started with the predictions for 2018, starting with the Nintendo Directs and when I predict they are going to happen. So to start off the Nintendo Direct predictions, well, we obviously have to start in January. At this point in time, it's clear. Nintendo Direct is going to happen in January. There's nothing anyone can say really. There's not been any major announcements. We have one game dated for 2018, and it's Bayonetta 2, technically speaking, two games, Bayonetta 2 and Bayonetta 1, coming to the Switch in February. So, we're gonna have to hear more about the upcoming months and year. Well, and I think they're gonna follow a very strict prediction, a similar projection or trajectory as they did this year. We're gonna get one in January, then we're gonna get one in April, more to tide things up, announce a few more smaller titles here and there, maybe some games for maybe July, or give release dates mostly. I think that what we're gonna hear from January is new announcements, trailers for the first time in some games like Fire Emblem, and then in April we're gonna get the finalized release dates for some of these games, for the games that will launch from May up until June. Then we're gonna have another Nintendo Direct at E3. It's gonna be another Direct, let's be completely honest. They're not gonna do a stage show. They don't need to do a stage show. And then finally we're gonna have another general Nintendo Direct in September, again to tidy up the rest of the year with perhaps brand new announcements like Doom was this year. Maybe even announce a couple third-party games for 2019. And give us a final trailers and release dates for major first-party IPs like they did this year with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and even games from November that coming out for third parties. I believe this was when Skyrim got an official release. I don't think we had a release date for Skyrim before this point. I could be wrong on that though, but you never know. Obviously, there's not just going to be those directs. I think that before some of the major Nintendo games that are coming out in 2018, we're going to have Nintendo Directs like we had this year. I believe we're going to get a Nintendo Direct for the very least for Fire Emblem. We might get one. We might get one. We're going to get one for Fire Emblem. That's almost guaranteed, I think, given that it's going to launch worldwide, I believe, at the same time. We're gonna get probably some from other games, maybe some of some new IPs that we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see at the very least one that's gonna have a new direct. It's gonna have to have a direct, most because it's a new IP. But yeah, that's about it when it comes to Nintendo Directs. 4 general directs in January, April, E3, and then September with more focused Nintendo Directs focused on game specific directs, and maybe some smaller directs here and there to just tell us a few things and new updates, and maybe even give us some new trailers. And I do think we're going to see maybe some more in indies presentations, probably at the end of August, early September, and probably at the beginning of February. So let's move on to the first. Before we move on to the first couple of predictions, we're going to have to skip January because there's not going to be a game in January. If there was a game in January, we would have already heard it from Nintendo by now. And we're obviously going to skip February because we already know what's going to be in February for the Nintendo Switch, and it's the Bayonetta collection. So yeah, let's move on and begin in March. Actually, before we move on to March, it's a good thing that I'm actually recording this in separate days and in separate parts, and which every part getting its own recording setup. I wanted to mention two things. The first one will pertain to third parties as it showed up on the screen beforehand. I'm just going to predict some of the big third party games that might come to the Nintendo Switch in 2018. First things first, let's get rid of the obvious ones. I believe Dragon Ball Fighter Z, because that game should be on the Switch immediately the moment it launches. Just saying, I really want to play that game. And Namco's, also with the Soul Calibur 6, another Namco game I should say, will be getting on the Nintendo Switch. Dragon Ball Fighter Z, I believe it's going to be the exact same game as the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, maybe, with obviously downgraded graphics. But as long as it still looks as good as it does, not as good as it does, but like, it still looks amazing like it does now, and I'm fine. I don't care if there's a downgrade from 1080 or 4K 60 frames per second to 720p 60 frames, because that's the important thing for a game like that is the 60 frames. Then Soul Calibur will come with guest characters. If it was up to me, if I was Nintendo and I was in the conversation room with the Soul Calibur people, I would be trying to get a Nintendo crossover with it, because there's a bunch of characters that we could get in that game. But if we're gonna get, I think one of three is appropriated, if not all three, and that would be Link, for obvious reasons, Marth, again for obvious reasons, and more one that I haven't heard many people talk about, Shulk. I would absolutely love Shulk to be in that game, mostly because there's a connection between Monolith Soft and Namco. It'll be a fun idea. Maybe that's just me. Other games that I expect from third parties in 2018, obviously the ones that have been confirmed outside of Octopath Traveler and Dragon Quest XI, is more games from Square Enix. I'm predicting a Final Fantasy something. I'm predicting they're gonna port all the NES and SNES games, maybe pour over other games. They've said they want to bring over more of their old games. The same thing I can expect for Capcom. I'm expecting a collection of Resident Evil games, maybe even a Marvel vs. Capcom collection outside of the collection we're already having with the Mega Man ones and the Street Fighter one. And then obviously there's other games that could be coming to the Nintendo Switch from big third parties. One of them, the two of them I think have a chance, and there's RDOS 2 I will be bringing up in this video, and have a big chance. One has a big chance in my opinion, the other one not so much. The one with that not so much of a possibility is Overwatch, the game. They've commented on it. There are too many bases to cover, I believe, and I believe they could do it. Overwatch, I believe it's a big enough game to where they could keep making the game and have another team working on it for the Switch, specifically for the Switch, and looking over the Switch. Even if Nintendo themselves bring it over, I think it will be a good idea. Obviously, there isn't crossplay with anybody between the other versions, so there shouldn't be one here with the Nintendo Switch. But I think that this is, of the two, I think has the lowest possibility, and the other game, I believe has a big possibility given what has been happening with Nintendo recently, with the Bayonetta games being announced, the trilogy, and then having Wolfenstein 2 already confirmed. Actually I should bring two games, but I think both of them have equal amount of chance, but one has more than the other actually. With all the Bethesda games, I think that one, Fallout 4 most likely will be confirmed for the Nintendo Switch, especially if the Skyrim sales are as good as expected. And I say as expected because it was ranking high on Amazon throughout November, and it's been really good in the Nintendo eShop. Heck, I just last time I went to the Portuguese eShop, it was still ranked 15 behind games that are in promotion. But obviously you could say it's 15, that's kind of low, but it's still in the top 20. It came out 2 weeks ago, and it's a massive game to download, so most people might get it physical, but still good numbers. And the other game, the game that I absolutely think there's a much bigger chance of coming to the Nintendo Switch, is the game that I think would sell immensely on the Switch. It would sell immensely on a toaster, and it's GTA 5. Take-Two wants money. My brother follows them more closely than I do because he's a big GTA fan. I believe what they said is microtransactions are the future, are here to stay, or something to that effect. So him saying that is basically like, we don't want all the money. And I think, personally, that this is, obviously you can call me a Nintendo fanboy, I think that there's a lot of money to be made with GTA 5 onto the Nintendo Switch. And now that I've covered one of the things that I forgot before with the third parties, let's move on. And by the way, the rest of the list, I don't expect Nintendo to have third-party games like Project Octopath Traveler to be the game of the month, but a part of the month with multiple third parties. So let's move on to something else I forgot, and it's January. Now, I will explain my reasons when I get to January. So let's move on to it, shall we? Now let's obviously talk about January, and what I forgot was January is the first month of 2018. Obviously, duh, but there's also going to be a Nintendo Direct. And during that Nintendo Direct, Nintendo will most likely talk about their online infrastructures. So if they don't talk about in January, they'll have to talk in February, or they'll have to talk somewhere in 2018. Obviously, it's going to be sooner rather than later, given the fact that it's going to be a paid subscription. So this is why I wanted to make this January its own separate thing, is because obviously we have to predict when it's coming. And I predict, obviously, because it's a predictions video, and I said prediction a lot, or a variation of the word in a lot in the last 45 seconds, is obviously they're gonna release anything of the first steps of their online infrastructure in January. I think that we're gonna get a new voice chat with the other one, a new voice chat for when it's docked, not when it's in handheld mode. This is an important distinction to make. I think in handheld mode is going to be the way it is now, mostly because of battery life, and we're going to have a new version of the online, of the voice chat, be it internal, be it a party system, multi-game party system, or a normal party system, or an in-game party system, will all be coming, or a variation on it, for the docked mode to be different. Then obviously we have Virtual Console, which I think is going to be divided into two separate brands. There's going to be the Nintendo version. There's going to be the Nintendo version of Netflix and Virtual Console itself. I think, personally, again, this is just my idea, and the probability of this happening is not that high, or maybe it's higher than I think, or you would think. No, I shouldn't say that. It's about a 50%, I think. It's 50-50. They either get rid of Virtual Console or don't. I don't think they're going to get rid of Virtual Console personally. But still, there's going to be two versions of it. Obviously, let's keep on track. One of them is going to be for the paid online, for the people that pay for online. But you can still access Virtual Console with this method. I think they're going to have you are subscribed to Nintendo online service, and any game on the Virtual Console library, you can buy it. You not buy it, you can play it. You don't need to buy it, you can just play it as long as you subscribe to the Nintendo online service. Clearly, with it, which is $20, I believe, €20, $20 a year, which is very good. Then you can buy, if you want, buy those games separately on the eShop. The way I think Virtual Console, and obviously Virtual Console is coming to the Switch, and both will release around the same time. I'm predicting the end of February, or end of January, beginning of February. Why? The reason for this is to give us some time. I don't think this is going to be something they'll shadow drop. I don't think Virtual Console, they might, but the paid online service won't. I don't think they're going to be, and from now on, they're going to give us a date, and it's going to most likely be by the end of January, and I think they're going to release everything at the same time. Now, what consoles will be available at the beginning of the service when it comes to the Virtual Console? Well, I think personally we're obviously going to see NES. I don't know if we'll see the SNES, given that the SNES Classic just launched, but I think it's possible. Alongside the N64, the Wii, and the Game Boy, and maybe the Game Boy Advance. I don't think they're going to do GameCube just yet. I think GameCube is going to be released around E3, alongside, at E3 will be when they announce the GameCube Virtual Console alongside the GBA Virtual Console, to bring even more hype, or maybe just, or as an incentive for people to purchase or to play the games, the Virtual Console releases. They give people, not the Virtual Console releases, the online infrastructure. You have not longer period of time, but an earlier access to those games. So let's say Virtual Console is coming, well, not Virtual Console. Let's say that they launch Super Smash Bros. Melee and Mother 3 as the games when the Virtual Console opens for, or maybe that they're in the beginning and those are the incentives to online, is that you get 2 weeks early. So if you pay $20 a month a year, you have the online service. Melee is available for you 2 weeks before you can pay for owning it on the Nintendo Switch. Same thing with Mother 3, same thing with all the others. I think I rambled on a little bit in this past 5 minutes just talking about January. But yeah, that's about it about January before we move on to March. It's good to remember that this is not a prediction, this is just a fact. In February, the game of the month will be Bayonetta 1 and 2, so there's not much to predict there. So the true predictions for the lineup begin now in March. So yeah, let's get to March. Now that we've gotten all the other stuff out of the way, let's finally start with the predictions for games. And obviously we start with March with, I believe, to be what Nintendo's going to do in 2018 is going to be following a lot what happened in 2017 in the rule or the law of three, or the rule of three, which is what I'm calling it, which is a dumb name, but still. In 2017, Nintendo made the call to release 3 big games interspersed between the year. We had Zelda in March, Mario Kart, Splatoon 2 in July, and then Mario Odyssey in October. I believe that Nintendo is going to keep this strategy afloat, or basically the same, maybe with the October game being moved to November, but maybe still in October with November, whatever. One thing that I'm also expecting is one game from early 2018 to be delayed to late 2018. Hopefully, I mean, this is more of a hopefulness in me because I did not enjoy much of what we saw at E3 of that game, but still. What I believe is going to be the big game for March, which is where we began this journey, is going to be the new game from Retro Studios. I mean, we haven't heard anything from them since they launched Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze in way back in February 2014, and we don't even know if that's when they began the new game. For all we know, they began the game much later, in August, like it was rumored, or maybe it was earlier, like in January, you know, or January, because of the game being done most likely before the end of 2013. But we do not know, but hopefully, I'm hoping and I'm thinking the Retro Studios new IP will be, I want it to be one of two things. Either one of three, a brand new IP, revitalizing an old Nintendo franchise, hopefully not F-Zero. Nothing against F-Zero, I just think that Retro Studios making a racing game, even if it was Mario Kart, would be a tremendous waste, in my opinion. They should just work either on a brand new thing, you know? And I've seen some people predicting F-Zero, and I'm like, people were disappointed with Tropical Freeze and want the Retro to have their own games and make big budget releases, and all I could think is like, yeah, the way to do it is by making them do franchises that will sell absolutely nothing, because for better or for worse, F-Zero is not a big seller, not anymore. But still, reviving a new IP, maybe a Star Tropics like people have been asking for, maybe either that, working on the 3D Donkey Kong, because, you know, finishing up the trilogy, and having the 3D Donkey Kong that we only had once, and the internet seems weird about this. I remember years ago people hating it, and now I see some people loving it. It's like Majora's Mask. It's weird. The internet doesn't know what to choose. Or hopefully, what I think is gonna happen, and I hope it's gonna happen, is that they're making a brand new IP. It'll be interesting to see what Retro Studios can do with a brand new IP and doing whatever they want. Raven Blade was again they were supposed to make, and then that game got cancelled. But hey, maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. It's just the way it goes. But I think any of these three possibilities are the biggest ones. Obviously, mostly because they're not making Metroid, and I'm glad they're not making Metroid, and I hope they're not making Donkey Kong. But at least I hope if they're making Donkey Kong, it to be a 3D one. and sliding in right into April. I think this one is the one placement that I didn't doubt throughout the entirety of it, and it is that April is gonna go to Kirby Star Allies. Why do I think it? Well, it's first half of 2018, much like Nintendo said, and I think it's a nice place for it to be. It's not gonna be the major seller, but one of those games to keep interest going. And hey, it's Kirby. People love Kirby. He's an adorable little pink ball that eats everything. And people love him, people adore him, he's fun, the games are fun. Some people call them easy, I find them to be good. I don't care if the game is easy, I care if the game is good. The game could be hard and be crappy, mostly because of the controls, but still, Kirby fits right in, it appeals to practically everyone. You don't have to be a hardcore fan to play Kirby, and you don't need to be super casual to enjoy Kirby. Kirby is just, well, Kirby. It fits there. It's not. I don't want to call it a placeholder or just filler, because it's not filler. I would call Bayonetta 1 and 2 ports filler, but that's beside the point. Actually, they're not filler. They're just there for the people that haven't played any of those two games to come out before Bayonetta 3 comes out on the Switch next year. Not next year, but 2019. Doesn't matter. Kirby, perfect game for this time. Perfect game for the time of the year as well. It just fits right in there. And yeah, there's not much else I could say about Kirby. It's just good. And as we get into May, this is the month where I have my biggest split. Alongside October, and maybe November is where I have my big splits here. In May, I think it's either going to be one of three things, much like November, or like October, or November. Well, not mostly October. That is, I think that May is either going to be like 2017, and it's just going to be open for third parties without a single Nintendo franchise appearing or a major Nintendo exclusive coming in the month, or it's going to be finally we're going to see Pikmin 4 being released by Nintendo. We heard from Miyamoto 2 years ago that the game was mostly done, and hey, if it is Pikmin 4, lovely. I love Pikmin 3, it's a great game. And again, it fits right in with the whole thing, with the whole theme of Kirby and of being just perfect games to be there to bolster up the Nintendo portfolio of games for the Switch, and to bolster up the lineup and help the Switch keep on selling and keep being in the conversation. Another game, and the third option I think it could happen, is Nintendo making or releasing Mario Strikers. Why Mario Strikers? Well, because Mario Strikers is fun, and 2018 also marks the World Cup. You know, the World Cup is right around the corner, so why not, you know, just why not have it there? It would be perfect for the time of the year. May is right up 1 month before the World Cup begins. It's a football game, or it's soccer as Americans call it, and Europe is gonna love it. America's gonna love it because it's completely different than the regular FIFA. It's around the World Cup. Heck, maybe it's not even Mario Strikers. Maybe it's Mario and Sonic at the World Cup. That'll be fun. If it's the same gameplay as Strikers, that'll be fun. But you know, maybe. But again, very indecisive here. It could be one of the three. I'm hoping for the last one. I would love the second one, but I'm more inclined to the first one, being open to third parties. But hey, you never know. And now to close out the first half of 2018 is honestly the first game to be announced, well, the first Nintendo game to be announced for the Nintendo Switch for 2018, and it's Fire Emblem. I think that Fire Emblem 2018 just fits in June. This is typically, if I'm not mistaken, where the games launch, the Fire Emblem games launch. It's a big IP over in Japan. It's becoming a big IP over here in the West as well. It's a franchise that's growing, and you know, it just fits super well. You know, it just fits well. The time period is great. It's phenomenal. It keeps on building the momentum. And it's one of the big franchises. For much as I said that Nintendo 2017 was the rule of three, and it was the rule of three, Zelda, Splatoon 2, and Odyssey were the three big games that had a great supporting cast, but also I think that Fire Emblem is alongside the Mario Kart of this. It's gonna be mostly like the Mario Kart of 2018, when not in monster sales, but in that it's a very big franchise, or a franchise that's expanding, coming in here to support or bring to support the other games around it, and it also built itself upon what has been done before. And Fire Emblem June, I don't think there's a better way or a better month to launch Fire Emblem than here. In 2017, July belonged to a little game called Splatoon 2. Splatoon 2, the original Splatoon was the little game that could, the little game that nobody expected anything, and then wham bam, thank you, ma'am, this game rocked, and it was Splatoon. Splatoon was brilliant, Splatoon was great, Splatoon did practically everything right. It was incredible to watch what Splatoon could do. It kept on selling and shocked everybody. And Splatoon 2 came out last year, and it's still doing great work, still surprising everybody. Heck, as of right now, if we go by Media Create at the retail charts and sales, Splatoon 2 has beaten Dragon Quest XI on the PS4. Think about that one for a second. One of the biggest franchises in Japan ever was beaten by the squids that was supposed to die a horrible death. So, but that's in Japan, but Splatoon is still big in the West. Coincidentally, there's another Nintendo franchise that's pretty effing big in Japan, but also pretty effing big in the West. And I think there's no more perfect time to release Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing, this is another one that I'm kind of split. I think it could be March. It definitely could be March, especially given that we just had the Animal Crossing mobile game. But it also could be November, given that it's been about a year now since the Fire Emblem Heroes came out, but we haven't seen anything from it. The 2018 game. So this is why I think it would be a good fit for Fire Emblem Heroes and Fire Emblem in June and Animal Crossing in July. It's perfect for the summer, for people to play it, for people to enjoy it. It just fits very well, especially with Japan. Japan is gonna love this. The Switch is gonna explode in Japan again, and Animal Crossing just fits so goddamn well here. It's incredibly how well it fits. It mirrors, not apart from not being a major seller, because around the time that the Animal Crossing came out originally, the internet wasn't such a thing, but the fact of it's just such a big franchise in Japan, just like Splatoon. I believe Animal Crossing is the last franchise, or I believe it was either the DS or the most recent 3DS game, were the last games in Japan to hit 5 million sales. And it wouldn't shock me if the Switch version also did that. In 2017, Nintendo had two brand new IPs, let's put it that way. One to Switch and ARMS, both two different success stories. One to Switch is already, it reached 1 million in I believe 6 months, while in the first 2 weeks after launch, ARMS was able to be shipped at least 2 million, 1 million if we believe VG Shorts. The game just recently passed 1 million. If we don't, it probably was when they also said it. Not because they are super brilliant, but because if you ship 1 million in one quarter and you ship only like 0.2 million, 200,000 the second one, or 1800,000, I forget, then probably sales in that second quarter were not as good, and let's not get into that. But I do believe that in 2015 Nintendo had the biggest new IP from Nintendo in this past decade with Splatoon. Now I think this is it. August is when they're going to release a brand new IP. It's either going to be a brand new IP, or it's going to be a brand new crossover, much like Pokken Tournament, much like Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. The timing seems perfect, and I think this is also going to be the game they're going to announce at E3 and launch 2 months later. Or maybe this is just a game like Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, a game that a third party takes and it's or a Nintendo franchise that the third party takes and they make a game from it, much like Mario & Rabbids. So yeah, that's practically August. Now we reach September, the 9th month of the year, and the biggest question mark on this entire video. The game obviously is Metroid Prime 4, and that's why it's the biggest question mark. If the game is as far along as everybody else in the world thinks, then it's not a September 2018 game. It most likely will be mid to late 2019. However, if the game has late in development or as long in development as I think, then September 2018 fits perfectly. I'm a part of the group that believes that the game is far more along than what Nintendo has led us on to. They just give us a teaser trailer, but then again, think about the two games that are supposedly coming in the first half of 2018, Kirby and Yoshi, and we got 30-second trailers. I do believe they were 30 seconds. They could have been longer, but yet they didn't get names. Kirby only got a name like a couple in September, and we haven't heard anything from Yoshi since then. And they're both slated for early 2018, and we saw practically nothing from them. So I wouldn't shock me if Nintendo was just playing coy and the game has been in longer development, and September 2018 would be perfect. Right before the big games come out in October and November and holiday, but just in time for the holiday season. And it would be a pretty hyped up game, at the very least on the internet. I don't know about the mainstream, but the internet would absolutely love Metroid Prime around this time period. Now we reach the two kind of big ifs of the year, the other two big ifs of the year. It's October and November. November last year was much more open to third parties, with October getting the big Nintendo game for the rest of the year. Now I think that November is going to be the one that is going to play host to the third big game of 2018, and October is either going to be open up for third parties like November was this year, or it's gonna be where we're gonna see Yoshi release. Now Yoshi never got a release date when it was announced. I foolishly thought it was a early 2018 game. I thought I had remember it being called that, but apparently it wasn't. I did some searches and apparently there's not an estimated release date. It was just assumed it would be early 2018 because of how the game looked and the fact that it was at E3. Given that E3 was supposed to be about early for 2017 and early 2018 games supposedly, but hopefully it is October. Hopefully it's a good game. I was not that impressed with what I saw, but hopefully it's a good game. Hopefully it improves over time, and it's the game for October to fill in that space between Metroid Prime 4 and the next one. And now we reach the big one, November 2018, the big game for that month, and this is what I believe it's going to be the big game for the final and for the end of 2018, and it's one that most people are not calling right now. Most people are saying it's not going to release next year, but I do believe it will, because this is another franchise that has been following the rule of three, but not the rule of three big games per quarter, but no, for 3 games for every 4 years they take a break, but they have 3 years with games, and they took a break in 2015, 2016 and 2017 had games, and 2018 is where I believe we're going to see Pokemon Generation 8 touch the Nintendo Switch. Heck, 2018 ends with an 8, Generation 8 would be perfect for it. It would be a phenomenal time to release it, especially if it comes around the time where the Switch gets a price cut, which I believe November will be a year and 9 months into the life cycle of the system, almost 2 years onto the system. It will be a great time for a price cut. And hey, it just feels right. I know some people are saying Pokemon is going to be 2019, and I don't know why people say they will be surprised if the game is launching by then, mostly because, it's because Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon just came out. I'll say that doesn't stop it. There's Game Freak has multiple teams and they have been having games launching every year. They take a break about every fourth year after 3 years in a row. So they did Black and White in 2012. I believe it was 2012. Then they did X and Y in 2013. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire in 2014, and took a break. And then we had 2 games. So hey, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but I do think that Pokemon would be that big hit for the ending of 2018, and probably most likely the biggest Nintendo Switch title and become the #1 bestseller of the Switch in about a month. And now we're finally on to December. And December, I can only think of one game, a game that fits perfectly, a game that I will be very, very excited to play, and it's Captain Toad 2. Captain Toad is in Mario Odyssey, and it just makes sense. Captain Toad on the Wii U was a hit. It sold well, and it fits the whole thing that I believe I said it during the Nintendo predictions for 2018 earlier this year, or even the Nintendo E3 predictions. Forget when I said it, but I did say that it just feels right. Nintendo has had this thing of like a Mario game comes out, and then the next year a smaller Mario game, or a smaller 3D Mario game, I should say. Either a smaller game comes out from the same team, quote unquote, or using the same engine or something like that. For example, Galaxy was a 2010 game, Galaxy 2 was a 2010 game, 3D Land was a 2011 game. Sure, 3D Land was still a big game, and it did sell, I believe, about the same as Galaxy 2, but or more than Galaxy 2. But it's still, Galaxy 2 was a bigger game. It was a home console game, and then it was the handheld game, and then we had 2013 Super Mario 3D World, and then 2014 Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. Treasure Tracker is a great game on the Wii U, and it just makes sense for the Switch to have a 2018 closeout with Captain Toad. And now for some omissions. So yeah, I missed, there's a bunch of franchises that I could have included in here, or some games that I could have included in here, but I didn't. Some of them because I felt it was too soon, some of them because I felt like they could be used better someplace else. For example, this list is missing obviously Mario Kart and Smash. I don't think Mario Kart 9 or a new Mario Kart is coming out in 2018. It's too soon after Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and the fact that the team behind Mario Kart is in fact is the one working on ARMS and still updating ARMS. I think it's a 2019 title, and one of the big three for that year. The same thing for Smash. I think that Smash is just gonna take the engine for Smash 4. It's gonna take most characters from Smash 4. It's gonna tweak the characters. Obviously, it's gonna add maybe about 10 new characters, brand new characters, not newcomers, new characters. I think they're gonna might add a clone or two, or revamp characters. I think, like, for example, changing Ganondorf, having Ganondorf become the Hyrule Warriors Ganondorf, and then an F-Zero character, I believe his name was Black Shadow, take the moveset from Ganondorf will be great. I think that we're going to see not just more representation from third parties, but some indies in the game, and I think that those two could be the core centers of 2019's Nintendo. And then obviously Mario Maker could be the third one of that list. I didn't include it here because, again, I just didn't think where he could fit perfectly without having too many big games come out in the same year. The same thing with 2D Mario. I just don't know how to work those two in perfectly. And then Luigi's Mansion and Kid Icarus, they could perfectly fit into this list. As a matter of fact, Luigi's Mansion specifically was the one that I was in the contention for me for the September game or even October game, but I felt like we already know about Metroid Prime, already know about Yoshi, so these games have a bit of an edge, and I think that especially Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon have more of an edge when it comes to when are they going to be released and how much further along in development they are. I think they are in context to the rest of the world, but you never know. This is not a 100% list. Obviously, it's never going to be 100% right. I hope a lot of the things that I have here are right. I hope Pokemon Generation 8 is a 2018 game. I would love to see Captain Toad 2. obviously Fire Emblem and Kirby are confirmed for early for next year. Kirby especially for early. I would love Retro Studios to work on their own original new IP. I would also like to see a new IP generally from Nintendo, or even a new crossover. And Kid Icarus and Luigi's Mansion, while fitting in some roles like fitting into the August game instead of a new IP, replacing Metroid Prime as a September game mostly, even replacing Captain Toad, or Pikmin, they could fit very well on the list of 2018, and that's the brilliant thing about Nintendo. Now that they're only working on one system, now that the Switch is both their home console and their handheld, despite the fact that they're saying they're still going to progress and evolve the 3DS and still make games for it, which obviously it's just PR. It just shows that right now, for Nintendo fans, it's a great time period, because we're gonna, and I know some people said, and I've seen some people say, like, their release schedule for 2017 cannot be continued on 2018, and now people in those circumstances, they are right in a way. It's not unheard of if we think back and if we look at Nintendo's catalog throughout 2011 to 2016, and especially in those years where the Wii U was successful, or the Wii and the DS were successful, you can see that even if it's not just Nintendo, even if it's third parties helping, you can build momentum on a consistent basis. The momentum keeps on being built, not just by Nintendo themselves or by third parties. Is that when you have products that are making, in this case the Switch is both home consoles and handhelds, you can see that they're release scheduled, even if for one system, even if, for the example, a Wii missed a month, or the Wii U had a lot of drops, but if you had both the 3DS and the Wii U, it's like, oh, in April the Wii U has nothing, but the 3DS has Kirby. Oh, May the 3DS has nothing. Oh, but the Wii U has Mario Kart. Those were playing off of each other. Now we don't have that anymore. Now both are in the same group. Now you could say both, so sure, but the teams are as well. But that doesn't change the fact that before we had, if Nintendo putting out for working on two systems. Not only that, but we also have to remember, for example, Mario Kart used to be a franchise that came out 2 times, like we like to say, it was a once in a generation game, and it was for a system. It was a once a system game, not once a generation. It's good to remember that the generation of the GameCube and the GBA, we had 2 Mario Karts. We had 2 Mario Karts between the Wii and the DS, and 2 between the Wii U and the 3DS. Now, sure, the Switch is going to have 2, mainly because of Deluxe and 9, but there's still it's still one's a port and one's a new game. It's not 2 brand new games, and I feel like the Switch is that middle ground of, like, it will encompass everything. It's eating up everything, especially after Pokemon was confirmed coming to the Switch. I think that's still the deal on, are we getting a new handheld, and Pokemon coming to the Switch, a core RPG being made by Game Freak tells you, yes, it is. It's replacing both, and that's why I think that this made a list like this, and I think like people should look when making a prediction, not to just say, like, look at 2017 and think this is never going to be the benchmark. This is never going to be what they can push forward every year, because maybe they can't. But we also have to look at 2017 and realize that we have to look at not 2017. I want to say there is not look at 2017 and look at the benchmark, but also look at the past. Look at 2016, look at 2015, 2014, 2013, 2012, 2011, and see that it's not. You could say, like, games are more difficult to make now, sure, but we have to realize that for at least a decade now, or even more, Nintendo, more than a decade, while their home consoles may have suffered droughts, we have to look at everything in context. They were supporting 2 systems, not only 2 systems, but they were making games for both systems. And if you had both Nintendo systems, you never were without a new game practically every month. People did this in 2016. They were checking, because people were talking about how little Nintendo had released, and somebody said, like, yeah, let's look at their combined release scheduled, and they had a crap ton of published games. And that's the other thing, it doesn't necessarily need to be Nintendo themselves making the games. They could just go to Grezzo and say, make us either make us a new IP or port this game over, or go to Tantalus and do the same thing, port this game over. They could go to Sega and say like, here's F-Zero, have at it. They could go to Namco and say, here's Smash, make a new game. They could go to Tecmo Koei and go like, here's insert franchise here, make a Warriors game. Absolutely would love to see a Smash Warriors. They now can even go to Ubisoft and say like, here's Mario making tactical RPG, and they made it. So, you know, I don't really know how to conclude this segment here, but, you know, things are not the way they used to be with the Switch specifically. But the future is indeed looking bright if you're a Nintendo fan and if you're a Switch owner. So, you know, the more the merrier, I would say. Now for technically a first on this channel, the outro. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, hey, leave a like. Tell me in the comments what you think of this list, and post your own E3 predictions for 2018. You don't need to do it like I did by month, but just say what you think and tell me I'm crazy by thinking that they're gonna release practically a game a month, even if it's just publishing. So yeah, if you want to see how wrong or how different this list is from my original one, the video should be on screen right now. And hey, if you want to see more of me, there's two playlists right there. Probably the Zelda Ballad of Gods playthrough and the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 playthrough, a game that I really should get back to. So anyway, I've been the Legend of DS, and I'll see you guys next time.